Hello, and welcome to this video introduction for discussion number 3 for University Seminar 275 Scientific Ethics. And for this discussion, we're going to be looking at should scientists have a responsibility for how their research is used in the future. So to start out with, what is it that scientists are doing? Scientists are trying to come up with a better understanding about something, some phenomena, some observation about the world around them. And so, we can think about this as a very basic question. Is science, as the pursuit of knowledge, kind of the definition that we're working with, is this pursuit of knowledge ethically neutral? The knowledge that's gained is neither good nor bad because, it is basically greater understanding, greater kind of knowledge, greater, understanding about what is going on in the world around us. Now, Kay Redfield Jamison is an American clinical psychologist. I think she's working at Hopkins now. And she has a quote in one of her books. The pursuit of knowledge is an intoxicant, a lure that scientists and explorers have known from ancient times. Indeed, exhilaration of the pursuit of knowledge is part of what has kept our species adaptive. Again, talking about the value of this pursuit of knowledge to gain an advantage, gain perspective, to gain the ability to potentially have a better life in the future based on the knowledge that's being gained. But then the flip side of that, taking a look at technology as the application of knowledge, is this technology then potentially good or evil depending upon how it's used? And this is the mad scientist trope that has been used in novels and movies throughout recent history, and probably stories kind of going out much longer than we would ever realize. But basically, is knowledge good, but the application, what we need to be careful with, because the application, the actual use of that knowledge could be used to provide an advantage for some people, but it could be used to provide a disadvantage potentially to others. Is it potentially good or evil as we're applying it? Now, it's not just recently that we're thinking about this. The Christian Bible in Genesis talks about the pursuit of knowledge. Taking a look at here, we've got Pandora. She received a gift from the gods in a box, but was told that she couldn't open it. But according to the story, curiosity got to the better of her. She was interested in gaining knowledge. She was interested in learning what was in the box and potentially what that information in the box could provide for her. When she opened that box, she released illness and hardship and evil spirits and unleashed them on humanity across the world, according to that story. And again, as she feverishly tried to close the box, she got it closed just before the last thing escaped. And it's again, according to the story and the myth of Pandora, she trapped hope inside. And so a reason why occasionally people may feel forlorn, because the hope has been trapped behind, but the evil knowledge, or at least the kind of hardships associated with it, have been released onto society. So what about when we take a look at this kind of in reality? The Manhattan Project developed the atomic bomb during World War II. You can take a look at this. A huge catastrophic event, huge potential for destruction, used in wartime. Potentially, the argument made, it saved lives. Not so much the people in the area the bomb was dropped on, but it saved the lives and it ended the war earlier than what would have been expected. It reduced the suffering. We could go into all of the ethics associated with whether or not doing something is ethically or appropriately a consideration to be used. This is huge outcomes associated with it. You can't defend yourself against something like this. This is like ultimate smoting, divine intervention almost level of the application of technology. But what about the scientists that developed this technology? Robert Oppenheim was the director of the Los Alamos Institute. and was basically seen as the father of the atomic bomb. And when he, saw the atomic bomb explode for the first time, he is reportedly, and I've seen it in enough sources, said, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And he didn't just pull this, out of his mind. This is actually from, and I apologize, it's the Bhagavad Gita. It's a 700-verse Hindu scripture that, again, describes a dialogue between an ancient warrior and his charioteer, which is represented in this. I think this is a book cover here, kind of going through all 700 verses. His charioteer is actually the Lord Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu from Hindu scripture. And so his kind of link to this is associated with the destroyer of worlds. What is it that he has done? What is it that he is potentially responsible for going forward? Now, we can say the development of the atomic bomb was it's hugely monumental, but it's also potentially troubling, potentially ethically troubling. But then you can make the argument there are good things that came from that knowledge. The application of the atomic bomb and dropping it in wartime in anger is a hostile act, and there are ethical questions associated with that. But what about some of the other technologies associated with it? On this slide, I'm talking about radioisotopes. So radioactive chemicals that are created with the knowledge that was gained starting with the Manhattan Project. And they allow us to go in and, without waiting until an individual has died and doing, post-mortem autopsy to try to figure out what's going on within their body, we can take a look at this. And again, I think I have to turn my pointer on to get my laser pointer. So this is a nice, healthy brain kind of up here, but in an Alzheimer brain kind of down here, what you can see is kind of an atrophy occurring, kind of a loss of brain tissues. Normally, you would have to look at an autopsy specimen to be able to see that. But now we're able to use these radioactive chemicals, and without going into kind of all of the details associated with it, each one of these is a slightly different test using radioactivity, and we can go in and see, okay, this is glucose metabolism. Glucose is a sugar that is used by the brain as an energy source. And looking at this, the reds in the oranges represent lots of metabolism, lots of activity of these nerve cells. Where in a patient with Alzheimer's disease, we're seeing less of the orange and reds and more of the yellows and greens. And in this, the yellows and greens are a decrease in the activity of glucose and a decrease in the activity of the cells that are being present. And so this is a good diagnostic feature that can pick up the early onset of Alzheimer's disease and track the disease. Other examples over here, again, we're not going to go into all of the details, are looking at, here's the accumulation of a protein that's associated with Alzheimer's disease. You can see it in this case, that protein is accumulated in the brain of a patient with Alzheimer's disease, and it's virtually absent. This blue is like the lowest level possible when we take a look at it in a healthy individual. So potentially radioisotopes, the application of this knowledge into a technology is potentially good because it can be used for diagnosis. It can be used for researching better treatments for patients afflicted with some of these conditions. Radiation is used in nuclear medicine in the treatment of cancers. The idea is that radiation, is damaging the cells. It can kill cells. But if you can target those cells that are dividing, those cancerous cells, you can specifically attack the cells and kill the cancerous cells. And this can be done, and again, this is a relatively recent article looking at, and I don't remember exactly where I got this one from, and it doesn't say on here, but a medical center, I think in Texas, talking about kind of systemic therapy where you treat with kind of cancer killing cells, radioactivity that goes in through an IV. But more recently, they've been able to look at a more focused radiation beam and, specifically attack the cells without potentially damaging neighboring cells and other cells of the body that might be affected by this. And then finally, again, nuclear power is, incredibly controversial concept in and of itself. But nuclear power, again, rose out of the knowledge and the applications of the Manhattan Project, and it was projected as an alternative energy source. And so we got, and again, this is from Berks County, and so we've got the cooling towers of the Limerick nuclear power plant in Berks County, Pennsylvania. So I think I've used this example a couple times in various courses. I can't remember if I've used it in this course already, but pretty flowers and nice landscape, and then you've got the nuclear power plant trying to spin it into a nice area. But again, are the people that developed the atomic bomb responsible for how that knowledge is going to be used? Now, with this, the reading I've got you with this assignment is a WHO, World Health Organization, bulletin, governance of the dual-use research, looking at an ethical dilemma. A little bit dated now. It's about 10 years old, but it's a good introduction to the concepts that I'm trying to present within this exercise. Now, the assignment is a discussion, so within your discussion group. And so, again, the goal is going to be that your first post is going to be made early on, hopefully by March 8th, and then the rest of the posts, again, your initial post by March 8th, your 4 responses, minimum of 4 responses, should be made by the time the assignment is due on March 15th. But the question is, in general, should scientists have a responsibility for how their research, for how the knowledge that they generate is used in the future? And just to start you off on this conversation, again, you don't have to answer these questions, but hopefully get the ball rolling. You guys are having great discussions so far, and so I look forward to seeing what you're doing with this. But consider things like, are there areas of scientific research that should be prohibited because of the danger that they could pose in the future? Does it matter if an adverse event or potentially bad use of that knowledge is easily predictable, or if it's possible but highly unlikely that somebody would be pursuing those outcomes from the knowledge that's been gained? If it's determined that there are some areas of research that are just so dangerous that they need to be restricted, who should make those decisions on what type of research is permissible and what is too dangerous to undertake? And so, again, those are just starting prompts to get you going with the conversation, but see where it is that it goes within your discussion group. Keep in mind that with each one of these discussions, you're randomly assigned to a group. This is intentional so that you get an opportunity to interact with all of the other students throughout the course. You're not stuck in a discussion with the same people every time. I want you to be exposed to a variety of perspectives throughout the course. And then finally, as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Send me an email. I can answer via email, or if it's something that we need to talk about, we can set up a quick session and talk about it. So hope you enjoy this discussion. I know it's an assignment, but my goal on this is to give you some interesting prompts, giving you some ideas to think about that are maybe a little bit different from what you're seeing in other courses. And so hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm enjoying reading your responses. Again, this is my favorite course. So thank you and have a great week.